Friday, August 5th, 2011, 2:13 p.m. Enforceability of non-competition clauses. Although non-competition clauses restrict competition and thereby affect the public policy favoring free competition, courts enforce them if they meet the following three criteria. 1. Clause must serve a legitimate business purpose. That means that the person protected by the clause must have some justifiable interest, such as an interest in protecting goodwill or trade secrets that is to be protected by the non-competition clause. It also means that the clause must be ancillary to or part of an otherwise valid contract. For example, a non-competition clause that is one term of an existing employment contract would be ancillary to that contract. By contrast, a promise not to compete would not be enforced if the employee made the promise after he had already resigned his job, because the promise not to compete was not ancillary to any existing contract. 2. The restriction on competition must be reasonable in time, geographic area, and scope. Another way of stating this is that the restrictions must not be integrated and necessary to protect a legitimate interest. It would be unreasonable for an employer or buyer of a business to restrain the other party from engaging in some activity that is not a competing activity, or from doing business in a territory in which the employer or buyer does not do business, because this would not threaten his legitimate interests. 3. The non-competition clause should not impose an undue hardship. A court will not enforce a non-competition clause if its restraints are unduly burdensome, either on the public or on the party whose ability to compete would be restrained. In one case, for example, the court refused to enforce a non-competition clause against a gastroenterologist because of evidence that the restriction would have imposed a hardship on patients and other physicians requiring his service. Non-competition clauses in employment contracts that have the practical effect of preventing the restrained person from earning a livelihood are unlikely to be enforced as well. This is discussed further in the next session. That is today's business class lesson.